this respect, after long hours of speculation, we have decided to show a tiny portion of milder documentation published by Hamas terrorists on social media, live streaming their activities in recent hours, showing Israeli civilians kidnapped into the Gaza Strip where they're being held hostage. Unprecedented and truly unbelievable scenes. It is Saturday morning, October 7th, 2023. A day and 50 years after the Yom Kippur War broke out, today Israel once again under a surprise attack, a surprise war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convening the Security Cabinet this hour as we speak. Here's more from the Premier earlier on in the day.
Citizens of Israel were at war, not operation, in war. This morning, Hamas launched a murderous surprise attack against the state of Israel and its citizens. We've been at it since early morning. I convened the heads of the security establishment. First of all, I instructed to cleanse the villages of the terrorists who have infiltrated. This operation is being carried out during these hours. At the same time, I ordered an extensive reserve mobilization and a retaliatory war with a strength and scope that the enemy had never known. The enemy will pay a price he has never known. In the meantime, I call on all citizens of Israel to strictly obey the instructions of the army and the instructions of the Home Command. We are in a war and we will win it.
Israel at war. We want to head now live to the southern city of Ashkelon. Beverly Jamil, resident of Ashkelon, is joining us live from there. Beverly, how are you?
Shocked, frightened, upset, annoyed. It's the worst it's ever been.
Try to describe to us what you've been through since the early hours of this morning.
Well, at 6 o'clock, at 6:30 this morning, we were woken up by the sirens, and basically they've been non-stop ever since. Hearing about the infiltration of terrorists into Israel, into settlements and army bases, is really, really frightening. We've been in and out of the shelter most of the day. In fact, one of the rockets actually landed opposite me, in one of my neighbours' houses opposite me. Luckily, they were all in the safe room, and nobody's hurt physically. Mentally, it's a different story.
Yeah, mentally, it will take time for all of us to grasp what is currently unfolding. Beverly, throughout the morning, we've been hearing Israelis essentially begging for the police, for security forces to come and help. Have you been able to see the presence of security personnel where you're at?
Well, basically, I've been in my house. I've not been open the gate to the house this morning. We're inside. We're basically in lockdown.
Yes.
And we've never had that before. It's never been as bad as this.
No, no doubt unprecedented, uncharted territory, literally, unfortunately. Beverly, I can assume that online communication with your neighbors, with your family members, ongoing throughout the day. What have you been hearing from neighbors in the southern city of Ashkelon?
Well, to be honest, once the rocket fell here, we had no electricity, and all the phones went down as well. They've just come back up just now. Yeah. I spoke to my neighbours that are here, over the wall. We're trying to keep each other optimistic to a certain extent, but as soon as the siren goes off you go back into your room, your safe room. You wait for the time so you can come out again. I managed to speak to my two daughters that aren't here at the moment. Listen, it's the worst. It's frightening. As I said to somebody, you've got 30 seconds in Ashkelon to get to a safe room if the sirens go off. But from gunfire, you can't escape gunfire. And unfortunately, I've already heard of 2 people that I do know that have been killed.
Beverly Jamil, joining us from the southern city of Ashkelon. Stay safe, stay resilient, and thank you very much for speaking with us.
You're welcome. Here's hoping it stays quiet as well.
Amen. Crossing now live to Kibbutz Magen resident Dina Bernstein is joining us from there. Dina, hello. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. I will start by asking, how are you?
How am I? How can I be?
Yeah.
How can the entire family be? We are 2 elderly people, if you can say elderly people, 65 plus a son, wife, and baby, and a big dog. Everybody is locked down here in the same room since 6:30 this morning, and nobody is allowed to go out, not even to the toilet, not even to get some food. It's the first time we have been locked for so much time, and nobody sees the end of it. The horrifying thing is, and you have to bear in mind that as opposed to the lady from Ashkelon who spoke before, and she was She was saying that she has 30 seconds to go to the safe room. We have 15, which makes a tremendous difference. But anyway, people here, we have a WhatsApp group for the kibbutz to transfer messages from, the management to the population and vice versa if somebody needs help. And we had an attack of the Palestinians, the Hamas people from Gaza. They entered the kibbutz, and as far as I'm talking to you now, we didn't get any message about them leaving the kibbutz. So we're still trying to locate these people where they are, hiding in between the buildings here or wherever. We don't know.
Yes, and Dina, this is indeed the perhaps most surreal element, or one of many, that we've been facing in recent hours. As we speak, there might be still Hamas terrorists in your community, in your kibbutz, as still some Israeli territories has been conquered, is under Hamas control.
Exactly. Yeah, we are hostages now in the hands of we don't know what's happening. That's the biggest problem, is that you don't really know what's happening. Nobody can go outside, and the only people who are outside are the people who belong to the emergencies squad. They can walk around, and they are the soldiers. We didn't see the army until recently. Nobody came. They couldn't even come. I don't know why they didn't come. But the only people who are trying to figure out what's happening and defend the citizens were the squad, the local ones, and that's it. And we had 3 injured from the squad. This is what we were reported. We got this information, and we don't know, what's going on with these people. I can tell you that my son, who was a fighter in the army when he was in the army, he couldn't bear sitting here in the room doing nothing and trying to. So he just volunteered, and he doesn't live here on the kibbutz anymore. He volunteered to help the people, and he's now patrolling in the kibbutz.
Dina Bernstein speaking to us from her home under siege in kibbutz again. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Hopefully we'll be able to touch base with you later on, sooner rather than later, once this apocalyptic scene is over. Stay safe and stay resilient. Thank you very much, Dina Bernstein.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, joining us now here in studio, Ambassador Avi Paznel, former Israeli ambassador to Italy and France. Colonel in the Reserves, Mr. Grisha Yakubovich, former head of the civilian department of Kogat, and our very own 24 News Middle East correspondent Ariel Osseron. Gentlemen, before we will try to clear the clutter with you, Ariel, let's try and have a clearer picture of what is the current state of affairs down south. Israeli forces still engaged in a battle to conquer back Israeli territory, with the lack of a better phrasing.
Indeed, Ellie, the difficult thing to say this afternoon is that there's still a lot of uncertainty going on down south. The main goal right now of Israeli forces is, as you say, to liberate Israeli towns from Hamas operatives. The IDF spokesperson said to public broadcasting radio not too long ago that as far as we're concerned, there could be Hamas fighters in every town surrounding Gaza. Our forces are searching everywhere and engage in fighting inside multiple towns. So as we speak, there is fighting taking place in multiple Israeli communities, border communities, according to different reports from locals there. We're talking about, just to name a few, Be'eri, Kfar Aza, Nirim, Nachal Oz. People inside there are saying they're hunkering down. They are hearing gunfights taking place around them, and a lot of confusion, a lot of lack of clarity from Israeli authorities as to what to do in this current situation.
And this is happening, Ariel, again, I'm repeating it out loud, maybe in a bit to grasp what I'm saying here. The large parts of the border wide open with Hamas terrorists walking in and out more or less freely.
Eli, half an hour before we went on air, we received a notification that the township of Netiv Asara has been liberated from Hamas fighters. That is the situation that communities down south are currently suffering with, are currently engaging. And not to mention, these are, there's one challenge, people in their homes, people who live there, but there was also the Desert Party. A lot of people on my way here to the studio, I heard multiple accounts of people who have been waiting hours, For some, their water has been depleted. They don't know what to do. They've been receiving conflicting instructions from police. Some said, just get in your car and drive to Rehovot, which is a couple-hour drive. Others said, wait until forces come. They were told the forces that came were hit by Hamas operatives. So there is a current state of chaos down south. There are also large numbers of Israeli forces, police, special forces, military, trying to contain the situation, engaging with fighters, Hamas militants in multiple townships and areas.
And we're not even mentioning rocket fire, which is ongoing.
Since I started speaking, there have been alerts of rocket fire. And as this is happening, also the IDF says that its Air Force has struck over 20 Hamas targets, command posts, but this is obviously a drop in the bucket compared to what is expected to be taking place in the coming hours.
And to that point, exactly, Colonel Yakubovich, obviously, so many questions to be asked, but at this point in time, when we're not even at the stage of the Israeli counterattack or response, or you name it as you wish, but what might or is already complicating the situation even further is the issue of Israeli civilians kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. Hence, every Israeli attack of the Gaza Strip at the moment must take into consideration this factor as well.
Well, we need to understand that Hamas planned this operation, I believe, a few months ago. Now this is a large scale of an operation, well planned. Probably hundreds of people in Gaza knew about this operation, and this is the biggest achievement Hamas achieved. And this is our biggest failure. Now, yes, we need, and actually the political level, the IDF will consider any action, any reaction, taking or understanding that there are probably, those are numbers coming out from Gaza. Between 35 to 40 dead, alive people in Gaza. Civilians, Israelis. I'm talking about Israelis. I'm talking about
Gaza,
soldiers and civilians. I even published on my social media a video of an old woman that I think she's ill. She doesn't even know where she is. And she's driving a car with some Hamas terrorists inside Gaza. Now, in any future reaction, or in any reaction that Israel will react, it will be taken under consideration. We need to understand that this is not the event of Gilad Shalit. This is totally different. How will Israel react? I think that we still, I think that it will take time, We need to understand it will take time, because any action will have a huge impact on the people who are actually were kidnapped and they are inside Gaza.
I'm listening to you, and I remain speechless. Ambassador Paznel, again, in a bid to try and get a clearer sense of the situation. The Security Cabinet convening this hour, nearly 7 hours after this war broke out earlier this morning. What are we expecting from the senior political and security leadership at this point in time?
We are expecting the answer to this attack, this unprecedented attack against Israel. You know, when I woke up this morning and I heard the siren, it brought me back 50 years ago, when Yom Kippur War. We were surprised then. We have been surprised today. From the point of view of Hamas, this first day is a success, and we have to see that the continuation will be a success for Israel. And I think that the Prime Minister was right when he said that Israel is at war. And I'm not convinced that this war will be only against Hamas. There is a possibility of the war spreading also to other fronts. I heard already all the muezzin in Jerusalem calling for riots in Jerusalem, like we had 3-4 years ago. I don't know whether the Hezbollah will move or not. We have to be prepared for something bigger than we have seen until now with Gaza. And I hope also that it will have the right political consequences. Because let's not fool ourselves. Here, there was a big mistake on our part. A mistake on part of our intelligence, which was not able to read correctly the intent of the Hamas, and the mistake at the political level that also did not read.
Underestimating the enemy's ability, the enemy's will.
Absolutely, we cannot hide that. We cannot hide that. And I do think that this is an occasion today to repair the wrong which have been done to the country in the last 10 months. This is the day that Prime Minister Netanyahu should call on the opposition to join a national unity government, just like Golda Meir did in '67 when she invited Begin and Dayan. Today, after this meeting of the Security Council, Netanyahu meets Lapid.
The opposition leader, yeah.
And the opposition leader. And I know it's only for a briefing of what went. No, it should be to call Lapid and Gantz, enter immediately into a national unity government because we are in an emergency.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Ariella Saron, again, we need to reiterate, to try and explain the surreal situation that is happening as we speak down south still. Several Israeli communities are under siege, under the control of Hamas terrorists. The security forces, 7 hours or a bit more after this war broke out, still fighting to regain control. What can you tell us about what are we to see from the IDF in the coming hours?
Well, Eli, as you mentioned, we're nearly 8 hours into this, and first of all, we have to take the job of informing the public in these very difficult times because, unfortunately, Israel's leaders and the heads of Israel's emergency services are not doing that enough. Till this time, we still don't know the extent of Israelis kidnapped, dead or alive, inside Gaza. These are not just soldiers. These are civilians. Unfortunately, I've seen multiple videos. We should use this opportunity to call on our viewers not to forward unauthenticated videos that could cause further mis and disinformation. This requires a lot of responsibility at these points, and we are relying our reports on very scarce official reports that are coming out. But yes, as you mentioned, the current situation, in addition to an unknown amount of Israeli civilians and soldiers currently held by Hamas inside the Gaza Strip, there are multiple firefights taking place in a few Israeli border towns and communities. Large amounts of emergency forces are there, and all the while barrages of rockets continue. According to the IDF, the latest figures are over 2,200 rockets launched from almost 8 hours ago during this day towards Israel, but that number is obviously much higher. Yes?
We're seeing live images of the Gaza skyline at the moment as the Israeli Air Force is starting to target Hamas positions there, likely to assume only the very beginning of the Israeli response.
And it's likely also that many of these command posts are empty, whether the officials
Hamas
in there...
leadership is almost for certain underground.
Either they're underground or they participated in the infiltration into Israel and are either in Israeli streets laying dead or have managed to go back into the Gaza Strip.
And we're nearing the end of our broadcast, so Colonel Kubovich, I do want to get back to you because we're focusing naturally on the fiasco that is happening down south at the moment, this emergency situation there, but there is fear that other fronts will be reignited from the West Bank through Jerusalem, Israel, Israeli towns elsewhere, and the northern front, of course.
Well, Eli, first of all, you said at least 3 times that you're surprised. I think that nobody should be surprised. As we've seen, the northern scenario carried out in the south. So we saw that in the north.
The northern playbook, yeah.
No, the northern scenario. This is exactly what Hezbollah, trained. The last big trainings, I think 2 months ago, they trained, and that was exactly what was carried out in Gaza. Now, Hamas, and this is the deception. Well coordinated with Hezbollah, well coordinated with Iran, and the problem, and just listen carefully to what the Minister of Defense said, Yoav Gallant, at the beginning of this morning, a few hours ago. We need to make sure that this is the only arena.
Right.
The problem is not Jerusalem. The problem is not the mixed towns in Israel. The problem is to make sure that the triangle, of Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, maybe Iran, will not be, let's say, the unity of the arenas. To make sure that the IDF will deal only with one arena. The moment the IDF will make sure that this is our reality and the threat is only the, let's say, the Gaza arena, I believe that Israel will start dealing with Gaza. But as an expert, my recommendation would be, this is not an operation. If Israel will carry out an operation as a response, it will be the biggest failure in history. We need to change the equation. One goal, the collapse of Hamas rule in Gaza, period.
Ambassador Posner, we have less than 30 seconds left. Your concluding remarks to Israeli citizens at this tough hour.
What we have to do, Eli, is to prepare world public opinion for a very strong Israeli response. Until now, we had a lot of love outpouring towards Israel, of sympathy. Now that we will commence to act, we have to prepare public opinion because we will act harsh and hard.
Ambassador Avi Posner, Colonel Grzegorowicz, Ariel Osan, thank you for this. We'll be back with more.